get down and dirty with organic dirt. This is my second presentation on organic gardening, and Rossi, my boss turtle, just wanted to say hi, guys. So, yes. All right. So a quick review. First off, what does it mean to be organic? Does anybody know?
Without pesticides?
I'm sorry?
Without pesticides?
No. Close, but no. There are organic pesticides.
No chemicals.
Not entirely wrong, but the actual definition of organic is to be derived from a living organism. So these are all products that at some point used to be a plant, came from an animal, might used to have been an animal, actually is an animal, or of some other living organism. So it is not synthetically derived, all these chemicals that you do see mentioned a lot, but they are produced from living organisms directly. All right, so what makes dirt organic? We just talked about that, it has to be derived from a living organism. So we do need the presence of a biomass. There are several components to the biomass, to include bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and invertebrates. And we'll go over all of this more in detail throughout the presentation. But we also have organic matter. So these aren't necessarily alive, but composted plant material, decomposed animals, and manure are all good organic matter that will help make up a good bulk of the organic dirt. All right, so let's talk about this biomass. This, I strongly believe, this is a heartstone of my gardening practice, is the foundation of not only good healthy soil, but successful gardening overall. If your dirt isn't any good, you're not going to grow anything good. So, this is how we get good dirt. Got to start off with our soil bacteria. These will break down nutrient molecules, so all that stuff in the fertilizer, your NPK, down into a form that the roots can actually absorb. There's different classifications of bacteria to include decomposers, nitrogen fixing, nitrifying, and denitrifying bacteria. These last three are all different ways of taking different forms of nitrogen and making it into something that the plant can actually use. Like ammonia is got nitrogen in it, and these bacteria will help break it down. So it's actually a nitrogen form that the plant can actually get into the roots and utilize. They will also outcompete and repel pathogenic bacteria. Plants can get sick just like you and I can. So these bacteria in the soil, they will help keep pathogenic bacteria away, along with other pollutants that will make the plant sick. So basically, it's the start of an immune system for our gardens. And they're also food for other microbes. There are other microorganisms living in the soil that will eat the bacteria, and we're going to get more into that in a couple of slides. Fungi. So fungi, they can range from microscopic fungal spores, so the itty-bitty ones that you're never going to see, but they're there, up to mushrooms that are popping out in your plants. Everybody knows mushrooms are the decomposers. They break down the larger pieces of organic matter into something more usable for the bacteria and the plants as well. For the life of me, I cannot pronounce this mycorrhizae. I don't know if I said
Mycorrhizae.
Thank you. That this is a very important microscopic fungus that it'll grow on the plant roots, and it helps make the phosphorus soluble for the plant, so it can actually be absorbed and used. And over the summer, my pots are notorious for having little mushrooms just pop up here and there, and then they're gone like 2 days later. So so if you do see mushrooms growing in your garden, that's good. That means that they're breaking down organic matter, and you've at least got the start of a biomass.
So you leave them in, I've been pulling them out.
If you want to, I'm not gonna stop you, but I leave them in, mine come and go so quickly.
Yeah.
And if I was trying to pull mushrooms all the time, I wouldn't get anything else done in the summer, but they always pop up during the summer, I don't know what's up with that. Alright, so protozoa is our next classification of microbes. These are also microscopic organisms, they're just a single cell, but they eat bacteria and help regulate bacterial populations. If we don't have something like this, eating bacteria and keeping it at a steady level, we will have a bacterial overgrowth, and that can be detrimental to our plants. So we need something to kind of balance it out. They do act as disease control, they'll eat the pathogenic bacteria as well. And just to give an idea of what these guys look like, these are a couple of different soil protozoa. There's protozoa, you could probably get a whole other presentation on it, so I'm just giving you the basics of all of this. All right, invertebrates. These are going to be the ones that are actually going to be a lot more visible to us. These are our worms and insects and arachnids. And if I had a candy bar, can anybody tell me what a myra pod is? No? Okay. These are the millipedes and the centipedes. So there's the invertebrates, that's the ones with lots of legs. They are part of the soil biome. What these guys do is they're going to tear up these the larger pieces of organic matter. They break them down and they increase the surface area, and that increased surface area gives the bacteria and the other microbes, more room to work, and it actually works better that way. So instead of, if you have if you ever had a big piece of ice and it just won't melt, but if you smash it up, it melts a lot faster. It's the same thing. We've got that increased surface area, so things are more available and work better. They'll also help move microbes and nutrients throughout the soil. So bacteria doesn't really move very well on its own, and neither do these protozoans or the fungal spores for that matter. But these invertebrates who eat all of this stuff do travel through the soil. So when they're traveling through the soil, they're helping to spread these micropopulations and increasing the viability of the soil from other than just this one little spot that everything started at. You can spread it out, and that way we have more healthy soil. They regulate micropopulations by eating them. They also help mineralize nutrients for plant absorption. This is mostly something you're going to hear earthworms doing. I'm sure you've all heard of worm castings. Yes? Okay. This is part of that part of what earthworms do is they break down stuff, and those castings are more, accessible form of nutrients for the plants. They mix up the soil, so it's a lot more uniform. They do act as pest control. I know I do have, I've got spiders in my garden that eat things. The centipedes and the millipedes, they will eat smaller invertebrates as well. So these are things that we want that will help us. Granted, with anything, if you get too much, it can become a problem, but if you let everything work together, it'll balance itself out. And it also helps with water retention, having everything burrow through the soil. I found some words today. Instead of having the soil all compact, with the act of burrowing through it, it kind of loosen it up a little, and that helps with getting soil to actually get into the soil and stay there instead of just running off. So why do we need a biomass? I got a couple of reasons for you. These organisms all work together to do several things. First off, they break down nutrients for plant absorption. You've seen me mention that with each of these individual ones, but as a team, it's a lot more effective instead of just having one. They degrade pollutants, so if you have something nasty in the soil, this biomass is going to help get rid of that faster than you just trying to water it out or dig it out yourself. Retained water here in the desert is a huge deal. We want to be able to keep the water in the soil instead of running off, so our plants can stay hydrated as well. It'll aerate the soil. and it does help as disease control for the plants. So what if we don't have a biomass? There we go. So the soil is considered sterile at this point. There's nothing living in it, so it has been sterilized. The plants will have a harder time absorbing nutrients because they're not being broken down by the bacteria and the protozoa to absorbable forms. They're not going to be able to absorb them themselves or at all. Water retention is going to be reduced, leading to a higher water demand and a higher risk of dehydration. We live in the desert. I really think you guys get this one on a personal level. And that's one of my favorite things about having a good biomass is the water retention properties that it has. Harmful substances can build up, damaging the plants. Some fertilizers will have too much salt, ammonia build up from various sources. If you don't have the microbes breaking down these harmful products, they're going to damage the plants. Pathogens and parasites will have an easier way in because there's nothing standing guard to keep them out. So we got to feed the dirt. Everybody talks about feeding the plants and feeding the kids and the dog, but you got to feed the dirt too. So how do we do that? So we need to maintain favorable conditions for the biomass to thrive. So you got to be careful on what you're mixing with the dirt, instead of just like tossing out that that nasty mop water or old paint bucket that's I live with boys. I'll come up with stuff. You want to add organic matter to the soil to feed the biomass and hold water. So the organic matter think of it kind of as a sponge. It'll help hold water, and then the plants will be able to use that as it's needed as the soil starts to dry out. You can add additional and or new microbes to replenish the populations. A lot of organic fertilizers do have those. And you want to refrain from introducing substances that kill the biomass. So some people are all about pesticides and do your biological warfare on systemic herbicides and pesticides. Those things don't differentiate between the good guys that you want to keep and the bad guys you're trying to get rid of. They're just going to take everybody out. So you got to be really careful with what you actually put in the soil because you might be damaging the biomass in some shape or form of doing that. So one thing we can do to feed the dirt is add compost. It is a soil amendment that is rich in all of these microbes and nutrients. You can either buy it from the store or you can make it yourself. I like to make it myself. So I have my two little tumblers there that I fill up and spin on we'll pretend it's a regular basis. So yes, you just, the thing with compost, if you do it at home, is it needs to be vegan, so don't put any animal products in it that'll attract unwanted creatures, and with some meats, with the fats and the oils, it can turn your compost rancid. But if you keep it vegan, fruit, vegetable, yard clippings, coffee grounds, tea bags even, shredded up paper can all go in compost.
Eggshells?
If you clean them and you let them dry out, I've seen that okay. I personally don't put eggshells in my compost, but I do have a jar of ground up eggshells that every now and then I'll sprinkle into the soil itself for some extra calcium. And then that was a big bucket of my finished product. I had so much I had to give it away because I couldn't use it all
How
before.
long does it take to get to that stage?
It takes a few weeks. It kind of depends on how much you put into the tumbler and how quickly you, how often you turn it. I put a lot of coffee grounds in there. Other, old salad that, I just never got around to eating and, trimmings from my herb garden and stuff like that. So it really depends upon how much you put in. Temperatures and humidity are a factor as well. What's nice about being in Tucson is that because we do have a lot of more, warmer temperatures, we can still do this over the winter instead of just like shutting down like you would, somewhere up north.
And you don't have to fine chop that, you just throw it in like that?
I try to make some of my pieces smaller just so they break down a little bit easier, but I don't put too much effort into it. Also, you gotta make it small enough to fit in the hole through the door, so if it doesn't fit through the door, then that's kind of a damper on that too. Alright.
So that's different than, well, that is composting, right?
Yes,
Okay.
in a brief nutshell.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to composting, with turning what you can put in and how in ratios.
Yeah.
And all of that, but it is, I was kind of apprehensive about composting at first, and I saw a presentation on how to do it, and I'm like, oh, I could totally do that. And next thing my husband does, I'm buying, compost tumblers and, telling him to not throw stuff away.
Do you have to start with soil, or you just put the organic matter in?
I've done it a couple of different ways. I have a compost starter, which is it's got microbes and stuff to just, you throw in a bunch of the dry organic matter, along with some green, it's called green organic matter, as well, depending on if it's dried out, or not. You just mix it in. A couple of times I've thrown a shovel full of dirt in, but I don't know. I have mostly gravel in my yard, so it's just throwing a cup of dirt in.
Yeah.
It isn't really ideal for me anymore, which is why I got the compost started. So I've seen both be effective. Right. Organic fertilizers. I know last month we heard we talk about a fertilizing regimen. You can do it strictly organic. That is an option. But most granular organic fertilizers do have microbes in them, which is a big bonus. Fish emulsion, which he was talking about earlier today too, is actually excellent for feeding the biomass. So not only is it a good water-soluble food for the plants, but the fish emulsion itself is actually, it's beneficial for the biomass as well. So kind of killing two birds with one stone there. It won't damage any existing populations that you have growing in your soil. Soil amendments are another thing. These aren't fertilizers, but they're things that we can add to the soil to, kind of bolster something that's lacking, or a supplement more, if you will. Some of these include blood meal as a good nitrogen source. Kelp has got trace minerals and growth hormones, and I wrote an entire article on the benefits of kelp with water retention, and I really wish we had more, better, easier access to kelp, but it is really good. It will help with water retention, and not just like the NPK nutrients, but the micro nutrients that we don't hear about as often, that might actually be causing problems if you don't have them available. Molasses. It's kind of not talked about a whole lot. But the sugar in the molasses will feed the bacteria in the soil. And it's also a really good way to supplement iron. If you're having an iron deficiency in your roses, you can add some molasses to like a compost tea, or maybe even try to dissolve it in a little bit of water and just water it into your soil that way. I hear it's good for
The
tomatoes.
vinegar, the apple cider vinegar and molasses together.
I'll have to look into that. Manure is also another one. It's all organic matter, and it does have microbes in it as well. So this is the Jovi's Rosen Flower Fertilizer that I use. I've been a devout follower of Jovi's for several years now. It's easy to find. I get it at Lowe's. It's cheap enough that it doesn't break my wallet, and I see really good results with it. It's really easy to use. You just sprinkle it on, scrape it in, make sure your plants are well watered. So this is the side of the bag. You'll see at the top, it's got the guaranteed analysis, we got the NPK, we got some magnesium and sulfur in there on that. But if you look further down on the label, it'll actually tell you the bacteria, and the fungal elements that it has in as well. So you know you're actually putting in microbes to support this biomass that we're trying to maintain. So I've seen a couple of organic fertilizers that don't list their any microbe population, but most of them do. So you want to make sure that you're actually getting, you know, we've got bacteria and a micro fungal elements in there as well. And then fish fertilizer. Fish has been used for centuries as a nutrient source for plants, and the fish emulsion is just an easier way of applying it as well. So that is something that I use consistently in my garden. Yes, it smells bad, but it works. So if you want to get a jump start on having organic soil, you can buy some if you don't want to like take whatever soil that you already have and try and boost the population. You can go buy organic soil. I've recently been turned on to Kellogg's Patio Plus. Thank you, Lou. They've got raised bed, they've got potting soil, they've got garden soil, they've got whole palm and citrus. I mean, they've got all sorts of stuff. And you can look, the middle pictures are the ingredients that you'll see. You'll see there's a lot of forest products and bark and poultry manure. So it's, I mean, it's telling you straight out what kind of organic matter is in the soil. So we know that we do have the foundation for good organic soil. All right, these are my tidbits. So since I've gone fully organic, my watering time has literally been cut in half from when I was a hybrid. I used to do a little bit of synthetic and a little bit of organic, like a lot of people do. But then I went fully organic and I timed myself and it was literally cut in half. And that is attributed to the increased water retention that we see with organic soil.
You're planting in the ground or in the air?
All of my roses, my entire garden is in pots
Okay.
right now. And it's just with my backyard, it was easier. So all of my roses are in these large containers. So it's easy for me to tell when I do have a thorough watering because I can see the water coming out of the bottom of the pots. And even before I went fully organic, that's
You had to wait longer for it to come out.
yeah. And I also had to water more frequently. 2 summers ago, I actually drowned one of my roses in the middle of July. Freaked me out. I had enough drainage and all of that, but I was watering daily, and I was just putting too much water into these pots for it to all hold, and I drowned one of my roses. So it's 115 out, and I'm watering every day because that's all it needed. So I know most recommendations are just like, oh, it's over 100, you gotta water every day, make sure, spraying down. No, I had to water every other day because of how much water retention I was having with my, with the organic soil. I mean, I had good drainage, nothing had changed on that, so, yeah, it was just, the biomass was holding that much water for me. Soil pH is optimal for roses nutrient absorption. All plants have a range of a soil pH that they need for to absorb nutrients properly for them. So you'll hear about some plants that are like acidic soil or some that like more alkaline. What I found with this organic setup that I have is I've actually got I'm right in the middle of the range that roses need for to absorb their nutrients.
What's the range for roses, Crystal?
You had to ask me that, didn't you?
I know, I'm just curious.
Sorry.
Sorry.
It's pretty neutral. I did a little experiment a while back, and I measured, I got like a pH meter, and I measured all of my pH, before and after in water, and it was around 7, so like 6.5, 7, and everything was pretty spot on. And then, I put worms in all of my pots, and then I was moving pots and I had worms falling out of the bottom because there were so many of them. So that's another thing I've noticed with my, with growing organic.
When the soil level goes down, do you just add soil to the top?
Yeah, or
You don't have to
composted
remulch?
mulch.
Okay.
Every couple of years, they say too.
Yeah, I mean, every couple of years, I will pull it out and maybe trim the roots or put it in a different pot if I find a cute pot that I like. But it's gotta be big enough, that's the thing, but, mostly what I do is,
We just do that because the soil works down.
yeah, well, it's also breaking down because it's all organic matter, so it's gonna break down, and it's gonna lower that way as well. What I've also done a couple of times is I've let it dry out a little, I just take the entire root ball out, and then I put dirt on the bottom, and I put
Put it back in.
it back on
yeah.
top. And that's just for root space.
It's work, I told my husband, only 2-3 years, you don't have to do it every year.
Yeah, I know, you don't have to do it every year.
And it's okay to put the soil around the crown or the root ball, and that's not gonna hurt?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I also have I found a composted mulch by Kellogg's as well. That can be used as a potting mix. I use that to top off a lot.
Okay.
And
You use it
I
for
love
mulch?
grow mulch, yes.
Yeah, grow mulch.
Mhm. I also have mushrooms just pop up. These are the fruiting bodies of the soil fungi that you have, and so if you see those, you know you've got a good fungal population to break things in.
Do you ever test your soil?
No, I don't want to spend money on that.
Okay, how do you even test it here in Tucson?
You can buy a kit.
Or you just buy the kit?
Yeah, I'm sure there's kits you can buy. I'm sure there's places. I'm sure the U of A's got somewhere you can send it off to for a more thorough analysis.
I kind of looked and I didn't see it, so will you never test your soil just to see?
Do you,
Lou?
Lou? You ever
Do you ever test
Where
your
do you-
soil?
Where do I get soil?
No,
Where
do
the
you
soil
test
from?
it?
You ever test it?
Oh, test it, oh,
pH?
yeah, there's a place in Phoenix, I don't remember the place, but that's the only place I found that, there's 2 types of way you test it, either your soil or you test the leaves. And, Mike Jepson from Phoenix, he always has a bunch of clients from farmers, and they test the leaves on all the different crops,
That makes sense.
just to see what the nutrient level is.
Yeah.
So I don't know which way is better. If you just want a simple test to find out what the pH is, you can just get a pH meter. And you
They're
have
$10 at
half soil, half distilled water, mix it up well, and then put it in there, and then you can tell.
See what color it comes up to.
Yeah. And then but that's a simple way, but if you wanna know a lot more about it, what you're low on, what you're high on, and then try to get it in there, I mean, there's a number of great rose growers who do that, and they grow exquisite roses, they really do, so, because they know what's going on, so.
Yeah.
But I gotta find the name of that place, it's in Phoenix, but I don't know of any place here in town that does it.
I have to say my roses never looked better, but, my gym decided that some of the roses should be, have mulch.
Yeah.
So he, dug up the dirt a little bit, and, the gardener was gonna come help him, pour some stuff in, of course he forgets to buy the dirt. So, he wakes up in the morning, goes, oh my God, they're gonna be here at like 7:30. He runs down to the Ace Hardware where they have bags out in front, and no, of course, nobody's there. So he takes some bags and he brings them home, and it was this Kellogg one with the manure in it. And so he put, we put some with that and then some mulch, and they mixed it in. And I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I think, okay, I know it's better because of water, but maybe it really happened when that mulch mixture went on. Maybe it didn't really need to be enriched.
Yeah, the, why you want to mulch is, it does help, keep water in, itself, but it also, helps keep the feeder roots cooler. So things will get hot, so temperatures will go up, and it'll fry the feeder roots, that are closer to the surface. But if you have a good layer of mulch, it'll help keep those temperatures down, so you're not frying the plants from the bottom up.
Yeah, way less yellow leaves when I came, back from Sunday.
An additional resource, that I found, when I was trying to figure out stuff myself, is the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service of Soils. And that is their website, nrcs.usda.gov. They've got a lot more information on all of these, they call it soil biology. And they break it down into each of the different, classifications of microorganisms. But they did it in a way that was actually really easy to understand. So if you do want to know more about, one particular organism over another, I would definitely recommend checking them out as well. And that's it. That's the dirt.
Who's this bug?
That's Daytona. That's, Daytona here just passed away about 3 weeks ago, pretty unexpectedly, so. But she was good. She liked to come out to the garden with me and eat things she wasn't supposed to.